Buenos dias, everybody. How's everyone doing? Another spectacular Monday underway. I'm Sergio. To my left is Brian. To my right is Matt. Fellas, how are we doing today in this lovely Monday?
I'm doing fantastic,
Good.
Sergio.
Real good.
Great. Well, let's get it started. NCAA power rankings. Fellas, there's a lot of power rankings out there. Georgia or Ohio State? You guys, who's going to enter the top two? I know I was looking at a few websites. CBS Sports ranking has Alabama first, Ohio State second, LSU third, Georgia fourth, Clemson fifth. ESPN Football Power Index has Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, LSU. And the NCAA website has Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and Ohio State both tied for third, and LSU. Matt, who belongs in the top two spot?
Well, yeah, in the AP, Georgia and Ohio State were tied at third, but in my mind, it's got to be Georgia, and here's why. It's because Georgia has been there before, and Georgia does not have as much to prove as Ohio State does. See, here's the thing. I think Ohio State, on paper, is a better team than Georgia. I think Justin Fields ultimately will be a better quarterback than Jake Fromm. But here's what I'm worried about, is that Ohio State, since they have more to prove, I don't trust them yet. I don't believe in their power. They're a sexy team right now. But are they a quality team like we've known Georgia to be? So listen to this metaphor. If I'm going to go to Voodoo Donuts, and I'm trying to decide between the classic chocolate glazed, which I've known and loved, but the bacon maple bar also sounds good. What am I going to do? And I only have 1 year to pick which donut I want for the rest of the year. Am I going to say chocolate glazed, or am I going to say bacon maple bar? Both might be delicious. Maybe that bacon maple bar is better than the chocolate glazed. But do I trust it enough to pick them over the chocolate glaze? I just can't do that, Brian. Just can't do it.
Take the chance.
I also disagree with you. I think Ohio State is going to be the better team this year. And as Serge mentioned, they're in the top two in a couple people's rankings. And they've played a couple of fringe teams this year, around the top 25, in and out. Cincinnati is now the number 25 team in the nation. Ohio State beat them 42-0. Nebraska is 4-2. They're supposed to be an okay team. Ohio State beat Nebraska 48-7. And Michigan State this past week was ranked in the top 25. Ohio State beats them 34-10. Ohio State hasn't played a close game. Admittedly, Georgia played Notre Dame, and that was a competitive game, of course. And Notre Dame is a better team than Cincinnati, Nebraska, Michigan State. I will admit that, but I think when it comes down to it, Ohio State's going to play Wisconsin or Michigan, and I think they're going to put in the work they need to be in that top two, definitely ahead of Georgia.
Well, I'm glad you acknowledged the win that Georgia had against Notre Dame, because that was a quality win against a good team, and I don't think Ohio State has done that, even with their wins against Cincinnati and Michigan State. But I think you also have to note that Jake Fromm, while he's not in the elite of the elite and he has not done things that are necessarily Heisman worthy, you got to note his reliability and his leadership from Fromm. He's got, he's been there before. He knows this team. He's played at the highest levels on the biggest stages, and he's still a good quarterback from a statistical standpoint. When you talk about his completion percentages, he's fourth in the nation in completion percentage at 75%. Justin Fields is still down there at 22. Justin Fields is a great quarterback, but still Jake Fromm has the edge and the intangibles like leadership, among other things.
I think that Justin Fields is one of the most electric quarterbacks in the game right now. And not to mention, the Big Ten is a more defensive conference. We saw that Michigan beat Iowa 10-3 on Saturday. And Ohio State can also play defense. We've seen they can play offense really well. Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, among other people, can put up a lot of points. But the Ohio State defense is no joke either. 8 interceptions, 9 forced fumbles, 27 sacks. I think that in the Big Ten, which might even be a more competitive conference than the SEC, arguably, Ohio State can play defense, and the other teams can also play defense in the Big Ten, but Georgia cannot match up against an LSU or an Alabama, in my opinion.
Well, here's one thing I think you got to think about, one stat. Georgia has only allowed 1 sack this whole season. They have an elite offensive line, and sometimes factors like that are the things that people who only look at the offensive numbers and the defensive numbers that get overlooked. And so I think you got to really consider the stats and the facts that are below the surface before you count Georgia out, because they haven't put up those eye-attracting, jaw-dropping numbers like maybe Ohio State has. Ohio State is exciting, but Georgia is reliable. They've been there before.
Let's. You want to talk about reliable? I don't trust Georgia because we all remember what happened when they played Alabama in the national championship. They were about to walk to a national title, and they blew the lead. And I don't trust Georgia to do that when it comes to the playoffs again. I think what happens is they blow it again.
See your point?
Do you think that Georgia is sort of like a dark horse here? Who would you fellas, before we move on, who do you fellas think, who you banking on? Like, if you had to bet your life savings, your 401k right now, who would you bet it against? Or for?
I think I'd have to put my life savings on. I mean, if we're talking about who we think is going to go all the way, it's got to be Alabama. I honestly don't think I trust Clemson right now. I still like Georgia, and obviously I still don't trust Ohio State. Alabama, though, I think you can always count on. If I want to talk about reliability, they have my trust.
Sure, yeah. If there's anyone reliable, it's Alabama. They've been very good for a very long time. Nick Saban is running a very, very clean show down there. I'd also have to put my money on Alabama. I don't want to see him win, but I haven't seen anybody that's definitely better than Alabama.
Right. Well, it's going to be excited to see who's right out of the U2. Let's talk some MLB. The Twins, guys. What is going on with the Twins? The postseason misery continues. Now record-setting 15 losses. 15 games, 12 of the 15 losses have come to the hands of the New York Yankees. Brian, what do you have to say?
For this one, I'm going to bring up an image here. It's upside down. That's how I feel about the Minnesota Twins in the playoffs, especially this girl right here. You know, that's just a sad face.
Sad, very.
It is sad to see the Twins.
Heartbreaking.
Sad to see the Twins lose 15 in a row in the playoffs. Last time they won a game was against the Yankees in the 2004 ALDS, and then they lost 3 in a row that year. 3 in a row to the A's, 3 in a row to the Yankees, 3 in a row to the Yankees, wild card to the Yankees, and then this year they're down 2 games to the Yankees. It's just sad. Combined 95 to 45 score in those 15 games. And the Twins were formidable this year against the Yankees, 2-4, and they played an exciting game. They lost 14-12, maybe the most exciting game of the season. Very fun one to watch. But I will say, I think we could expect this from the Twins because not only have they been losing a lot in the playoffs, especially to a high-caliber team like the Yankees, but this year they were 32-37 to teams above 500. Which says something, and they by far have the least strong schedule out of the teams that made the playoffs because of a weak AL Central.
Well, yeah, Brian, and surprising stat, the Twins led the MLB in home runs. That means over the Yankees. The Twins hit 307 home runs, and the Yankees hit 306.
Wow.
And along with that, the Twins are, top 5, usually first or second in most offensive categories. And so that's why it's just so depressing for all of us non-Yankee fans that this has happened, that they're down 2-0 in the ALDS. And I think at this point they've lost 15 postseason games in a row. I think they're starting to enter curse of the Bambino territory, the infamous curse that plagued the Boston Red Sox for nearly a century. Basically, if you don't know it, the Twins, after winning the World Series in 1991, traded away their first baseman, Chuck Knobloch, to the New York Yankees. And an amount of time later, when the Twins were playing the Yankees and Chuck Knobloch was playing left field for the Yankees, the fans in left field started throwing hot dogs, beer, other items at Knobloch, and the game had to be suspended twice. But the Twins ultimately ended up winning that game. But that was the last time the Twins ever won a series against the Yankees. And so if there's any curse of the Bambino caliber, it's curse of Chuck Knobloch. Fans of Minnesota did it to themselves. And, you know, there's not a lot of great explanation for why this has happened to the Twins, why they just can't win in the playoffs on the big stage. Maybe it's just because Twins players don't have the guts.
You know, I see the Twins as a very good sort of farm team type of thing. You know, they get people up to their system and they develop them very well, and then they go up against the Goliath like the New York Yankees with Aaron Judge and the pitching staff they have, and it's just overwhelming. Didi Gregorius, it has been phenomenal against the Twins in the playoffs, both this year and in 2017. And I think the Twins, sadly enough, we're going to see them not win in the playoffs, go to 16 games. Maybe Jake Odorizzi gets the win tonight. He's on the mound against Severino. Maybe he gets the win, but we can only hope, I suppose. But another tough year for Twins fans.
I think the Yankees' offense is just going to be too much for the Twins to handle. That rotation, not enough proven pitchers in the core of that pitching staff.
Before we move on to talk about more baseball, do you guys think, so for sure this losing streak's going on? It's going to keep going. It's going to keep, you know, breaking its own record.
Unfortunately, I think so,
Yeah.
Sergio.
Do you guys think there will be any
much as it breaks
reverse,
my
any
heart.
way to reverse this curse, or?
I
that
mean,
rhymed.
obviously, a win in Game 3 tonight would reverse it, but in the future, hopefully not get the Yankees in the ALDS. That has been the undoing of the Twins.
Well, shout out my prayers and condolences to everybody that's a Twins fan. Maybe next year. Maybe next year, fellas. There is a heavyweight showdown going down in the AL. Who's gonna come out on top, Matt?
Well, I think who's going to come out on top between the Yankees and the Astros are two great teams. But I think that at the end of the day, the Astros are going to come out on top on this one. They're the deeper team. I think the Yankees have a lot of issues with their starting rotation and with their bullpen, and I don't think that at the end of the day it's going to be enough to beat the Astros in a 7-game series. And, you know, they both have great lineups. The Astros have a little bit more experience, a little bit more age when it comes to playoff experience. They've been to the World Series. They've won the World Series. And at the end of the day, I think that's going to be the X factor when it comes to beating the Yankees. And I don't think the Yankees have what it takes right now to make that run.
I agree. As much as I don't want to root for the Yankees, I definitely think the Astros are a better team, especially in their pitching. When you have a pitcher like Zach Greinke, who's third in your rotation, that proves how good your pitching is. He did get torn apart today. 4 innings, 6 runs allowed against the Rays, so they're going to a 4th game. But Verlander and Cole in front of him are phenomenal pitchers. Both of them got over 300 strikeouts this season. And as a team, they led the league in strikeouts per 9, second best in walks and hits per inning, second least amount of hits allowed, third best in ERA, and I think their pitching is one of the things that'll help them through.
I think you're right. That starting rotation with Cole, Verlander, and Greinke is way better than what the Yankees have with Tanaka, Severino, and such. And I just don't think that. I think that's going to be the X factor, because I think winning in the playoffs requires at least 2 elite starting pitchers and at least 2 relievers, because you can really rely on a few people when you only have 1 or 2 games to win, and that's what determines who's going to do it, who's going to be able to close out a series.
I agree. And the Astros' batting is not anything to be joked about either. They led the league in on-base percentage and in slugging. They were third in home runs behind the Twins and the Yankees, as we talked about earlier, which they had a record. Both of them had a record-setting season. The Twins and the Yankees on pace with each other. So the Astros were no joke in hitting home runs. Least amount of strikeouts. Alex Bregman was made for October. All 7 of his postseason home runs have come against All-Stars. And Carlos Correa bats 7th in that lineup, and that speaks to how deep their batting is. Correa could bat 4th or 5th on a lot of other teams.
Yeah, and I think both these teams notably have great fielders and have great defenses to go along with them, unlike one of the teams that we saw in the wild card playoff game, the Milwaukee Brewers, who made a costly mistake over there in right field, Trent Grisham, costing the Brewers, and which is going to bring us into our next segment when we go over how the Milwaukee Brewers got eliminated from the playoffs.
I believe we have some highlights for that, huh?
Josh Hader trying to nail it down in the 8th and 9th. And there is strikeout.
So we see that Josh Hader strikes out the first bat of the inning, and then he hits the next guy, puts him on, 1 out, with the 3-2 count. But Hader's one of the most clutch pitchers on this team, so
Not to mention he's got
they're
great
fine.
hair. Kind of looks like a skinny Thor.
Ouch. Skinny Thor, I like that.
Well, one of the things that comes into this game is, did he actually get hit by the baseball?
Did that hit the bat first?
It looks like it hit his wrist and then might have hit the bat right after.
But hey, he's Josh Hader, right? He's one of the best in the league. Strikes this guy out.
Trey Turner, one of the best hitters on the team, goes down.
Wow.
Jordan Zimmerman comes up, breaks the bat, and he'll get down in center. They got 2 runners on, 2 outs.
Boom.
But he's not going to make a mistake because, once again, he's one of the best relievers in the league. He's not going to make a mistake, right, Brian?
Let's see. 3-2, Anthony Rendon throws the ball. Admittedly, Rendon's one of the best, most disciplined hitters in the league.
And this is
Here
where
it
the
is.
error comes in. Trent Grisham charging in hard from Barney, goes right under the glove.
No.
That's a real Bill Buckner right there.
Ay, ay, ay.
Allows the go-ahead run to come in. Luckily, they were able to get Soto out in between second and third, but the damage had already been done.
And the Nationals are up. And they went on to win that game. As we all saw, now they're playing the Dodgers in the division series. Look at that.
Oh, my goodness. The heartbreak.
Rookie mistake. 1 out here. Liner into center. We see that the Brewers have a man on. But the next batter pops up. The catcher will go and grab it. Kurt Suzuki, veteran catcher in the game. Back. Ooh. The Nationals get it. There we go. Moving on.
Wow. Wow. What a turn of events.
What a turn of events indeed, Sergio. And that's what one of the things we're going to go into here next is what could have gone differently for the Brewers. What could they have done to change things? And you have the lead in the 8th inning. You have your man Josh Hader on the mound, the guy who doesn't make mistakes, and he walks a guy and he hits a guy. And then your guy Trent Grisham, who replaced the injured Christian Yelich, who's been so great for you in September. And he makes such a costly mistake. And so what we're going to do, for the first time ever, we're introducing our new segment called Fail Mary, and Brian and I are going to show you how the Brewers could have done this differently. Good afternoon, Colorado Mesa University, and welcome to our first edition of Fail Mary, our new segment where Brian and I will take a botched play that happened in the pros, and we're going to show you how to do it right. Today, we're dissecting a play that happened between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Washington Nationals in their wild card playoff game that cost the Brewers greatly. All right, let's get down to it. All right, so if I'm Josh Hader, who the Brewers have on the mound, it's the 8th inning, the bases are loaded, and the Brewers are up by 2 runs. So when I'm Josh Hader, see, his first mistake was throwing a baseball that was 100 miles an hour. You never want to do that in the bigs if you want to be successful. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get on the mound and I'm going to throw this baseball as hard as I can, at least 103, 104, 100 at the minimum. And I'm going to try and go low and outside, but what Hader does is go high and inside, and that's a no-no. So what I'm going to go do is throw a baseball 100 miles an hour, low and inside. Take two. All right, so Josh Hader has just given up a base hit to Juan Soto. The ball is rolling towards right field, and Trent Grisham is going aggressively at that ball, but the problem is he's not going aggressively enough. And so what Trent Grisham is going to want to do here, he's going to want to throw off his glove, throw that into the stands so he can barehand that ball, tell the Nationals that he means business, he's not messing around, he's getting ready to throw out that runner at home plate. Then he's going to go into a mega crow hop and chuck a bullet at the catcher, yell a profanity, and he's going to watch as his catcher tags out the runner going into home plate. Now let's see it done. And that's great form, very dramatic. He knows that that runner's out. That's a bullet, no question about it. Brewers are moving on to the next round. All right, so what Grisham's going to want to do next is that when he comes up to bat again, he's going to try and hit a dinger about 500 feet. He's going to flip his bat as high as he can, flip off the pitcher, and then jog as slowly as he can around the bases. And essentially what he's doing here is sending a message to the Nationals that they can go puck themselves. All right, and so we're going to show you how we want to do it. Now notice the amplitude of that bat flip. He clearly doesn't give a crap about what the Nationals think. He has great execution on that middle finger. He's going very slowly across the bases, and he's basically sending that message that the Nationals can go all the way back to Washington, D.C., where they belong. Yep, he's going to be even more dramatic, basically mimicking every celebration any baseball player has ever done. Gonna step on third. Oh, we all know what that means. And this is exactly how the Milwaukee Brewers game should have gone.
Oh my goodness gracious,
And
fellas.
that, sports fans, is how it's done.
That was absolutely hilarious.
If only the Brewers knew. If only they knew.
Oh
It's
man,
the little things.
That was
really.
that was cool.
Amplitude of the bat flip.
Great
whole
job.
thing.
Great job, honestly.
Thank you, sir.
From
Thank you.
start to finish, you guys did an excellent job. I can't wait to see.
We really
the rest
put a
of it.
lot of analysis, historical data into that one.
Mm-hmm.
We really think we did a good job, and we're expecting a call from the Brewers.
Yeah, they're gonna say, you want to come on as coaches for the team,
Yeah.
train, coach them on bat flips, coach them on how to flip off the pitcher.
Right.
All the things they don't get practice from the pitching coach or the hitting coach or the manager.
Yeah, you don't
They
see
don't teach
enough
them
of that.
that, yeah.
You don't see enough of that today in the MLB, and it's really sad, In the 1920s and 30s, batters were getting hit. People were flipping their bat, running or jogging as slowly as they wanted across the bases. That's why what really pains me about how baseball's changed so much.
You guys are naturals. That was just excellent. I'm sure you guys will get a call very, very, very soon. All right, fellas, that was quite a bit of baseball that we talked. So let's talk about some NFL, shall we? Who's going to take the AFC South? First of all, let me start off by saying I personally believe the Houston Texans. They have, rising star, ascending star in Deshaun Watson, the NFL's arguably best wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. They traded for Tunsil, which is, paying off. I mean, kind of somewhat. He's still getting sacked 18 times. I believe it's second. They already beat the Jags. They're 3-2. The Colts are a close second. I feel like they're also 3-2, and they came off an impressive victory against Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium, which I've been there, been to a game, and it is incredibly hostile. So kudos to them. Unfortunately, Justin Houston and David Funchess haven't really made the significant impact everyone's hoping for, yet it's still a little early in the season. and their defense is a little weak in some areas. So I think personally it's going to be the Texans. Still too early to tell, but I like how they're heading. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like for it to be the Texans. I'd like for Deshaun Watson to finally have the year that he's wanted to, and that the Texans can get back to the playoffs. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that the Colts. I think Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett. But the thing I like about Brissett is that it's his first year, but I think he's getting better every game, and I think you can really see some of the maturity and some of the poise, especially from last night's game against the Chiefs. And I thought that was a monumental win. We all thought the Chiefs were invincible. We all thought they were immortal. And then the Colts go out and hold them to less than 20 points.
Very impressive.
And, 19 points is no blast on the offensive side. But it did enough to beat the AFC semifinalists from last year, the MVP and Patrick Mahomes. And I think the Colts are all around perhaps a better team. And I think they have a better coach. I think Bill O'Brien is a plague to the Texans. And that's just my instincts.
I'll have to agree with Serge on this one. I think it's going to be the Texans. As much as I love Gardner Minshew and the Jaguars, I don't think they have it this year. However, I am enjoying Minshew play, and if you follow him on Instagram, it's pretty funny too. But the Texans this past weekend put up 53 on the Falcons, and they're only the third team to put up 50 this year. And the other two teams that 50 was put up against, not so good teams. The Ravens put up 50 on the Dolphins, worst team we've seen in a long time. And the Texans also lost a tight game to the Saints in Week 1 when they had Drew Brees. So I think the Texans are a very good team. Deshaun Watson, as you said, is a better quarterback. 1,364 yards, 11 touchdowns, only one interception, as well as 3 rushing touchdowns. And I don't think you can ever count out a team with DeAndre Hopkins, best wide receiver in the game.
Well, Brian, and I think one of the most important things to think about is, can Deshaun Watson stay healthy? He's the 4th most sacked quarterback in the league. And I think that's something you got to think about when you don't talk about. Not a lot of NFL teams are solid at the offensive line position. And Deshaun Watson is the guys that gets more banged up than anybody in the league. I just don't know if he can stay healthy, Brian. And of course, no Deshaun Watson, no playoffs. I don't think you can refute that.
I agree with that. I am surprised. I will give the Indianapolis Colts and Jacoby Brissett credit. I thought once Luck retired, it was not going to be the Colts season, but Brissett definitely picked it up. But you want to talk about sacks, let's talk about the Texans' defense. The Texans' defense this year has 15 sacks, 9 forced fumbles, and I think that's an underrated quality about the Texans. And I think that defense wins championships.
Indeed.
When you come down to it. And the Colts had a lucky game. Mahomes was off this past weekend.
Lucky game. Come on, Brian. You got to give the Colts a little more credit.
No.
Nobody else has held the Chiefs to that little points.
Yeah, and their defense has been struggling, which is actually makes even more of an impressive point yesterday, how they played so well. And to Brissett, you could tell I feel like you learned a lot in his time in New England. He learned how to keep his poise, and I feel like he's learning every single day. Like you said, he's getting better every single week. So, fellas, as we approach the end of the segment, you guys have any shout-outs? I guess I'll go first. Shout out to the Denver Broncos. Thank you for finally winning the game. It was a long time coming. I was getting a little scared. I mean, I'm still not completely confident, but hey, you guys made my Sunday, so. Brian?
I'm going to go with Kyle Allen. He is the first quarterback in NFL history to begin a career 4-0 without throwing any interceptions in those first 4 games. Kyle Allen, the future of the Panthers program.
Wow.
Okay. My shout-out goes out to the climate in New York City. DJ LeMahieu has led the Yankees in almost all offensive quarter categories, and thank God he got out of that hitter's hole of a stadium in Coors Field. That was killing his stats. As we know, it kills all hitters' offensive stats.
Wow.
So shout out to you, New York climate.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you. Until next time, we'll be here. We'll be waiting. Have a wonderful week. Hasta luego.